Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Morgan Ortega's Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and a pinky ring is her hula hoop. Dana Perino, The Five. A fiend shot and killed at least 2 people in northeastern France last night. He yelled Allahu Akbar while opening fire at a Christmas market. Wonder what he was trying to tell us. The terrorist was known to authorities, 27 convictions, and currently wanted for other violent acts. Considered a threat to the state, he was still out and about and might already have fled the country. Now, as an American, the striking thing about this recent attack is how rarely we hear about them now. That's good. But the venom of Islamic terror still exists, and injected into a bitter loser culminates in mayhem. It's been so long since writing about this and talking about it, I'm pretty rusty. The fact that such evil can move freely is another reason why security is the backbone of freedom. And while you'll never be 100% safe, the only way to enjoy freedom is to understand the price it takes to maintain it. A border, it's important, but when someone born here is radicalized, that's not enough. Solid walls keep bodies at bay, but toxic ideas float happily over them. The terrorist was in prison. Prisons have walls and borders, but they only work if the dirtbag is still inside them. He was out and able to kill innocent people. Why? How is that possible? It's infuriating. France, a target of numerous attacks, they still have trouble with priorities. While America enjoys relative safety compared with the past, this is a reminder for the modern world that as we move forward, there are still those who wish to take us back. You know, Morgan, you've dealt with this. This has been kind of your expertise. The last big attack here was around Halloween last year. A terrorist in a truck killed 8, and they were mostly tourists. But it seems like we're not really focusing on this as much anymore. Is that wise?
You mean as it relates to the U.S. focusing on terrorism?
Yeah, in general.
I think it's out of the news because the president, for good reason, has focused a lot on the threats of China and Russia, sort of this great power warfare that we're entering into. He also, through the military, has had great success against against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. I do think that this attack foreshadows a coming debate that this administration is going to have very soon about what we're doing in Afghanistan. If we will keep forces there, if we will pull them out, and I think it serves to remind all of us that this is a generational struggle. This attack may not have been ISIS directed, but it was clearly ISIS inspired. And this continues to be something that Europe struggles greatly with. And we can't keep our eye off the ball.
Yeah. You know, Dana, the argument over borders is sound, but I don't know if it correlates with this attack. I would say that this is more of a failure of law and order to protect society from a known threat.
Right. So, and one of the things also is that he was radicalized in prison.
Right.
And we know that that's a big problem too. So there's things like you go down the list, and again, you know, hindsight being 2020, you're like, well, obviously he was going to do this again. So why wasn't he kept? And part of the question has to be like, what are the resources that you're willing to spend? Can there be rehabilitation? Or can there be deportation? I did see that the officials in Germany apprehended his family for questioning because they don't know if there's coordination, things like that. So that area is quite porous, right? And because of the EU, understandably, from an economic standpoint, they thought this would be better if we just have no borders, right?
Right.
They added a border today, but it's a little bit too late.
Right. Good point. Jesse, I'm going to play you some sound on tape from Fox and Friends. That's a show here in the mornings.
Never heard of it.
Before you get up. It's Mike Pompeo.
How do you know my sleeping patterns?
I have a camera. He's Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and he's talking about terror as it relates to security and vice versa.
Europe has got an enormous challenge. We have this problem here in the United States as well. Lots of folks that we're watching we think are at risk. We try to monitor, but the numbers are so big. It's why, frankly, border security matters too. These are related issues in the sense of we need to know who's coming in and out of our country, so there are fewer people that the FBI and sheriff's offices in Kansas and places like that have to monitor and watch.
Okay, so Jesse, the issue here, I mean, he's monitoring who is coming in and coming out, but in this terror attack, it wasn't about coming in and coming out. He's already there, but does it still matter because...
I think he's taking the comprehensive approach.
Right.
So, you have air, you have land, and you have sea. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, they stop about 10 terrorist-related people coming into this country every single year. And obviously a lot more money needs to be spent in order to protect the U.S. national security. They have watch lists. They have them here, and they have them there. And right now there's about 26,000 people on the French terror watch list. You could get on that list if you fight for ISIS, or even if you go to a jihadi website, or if you have any contact with a suspected jihadist. They put you on the list, and that allows the French authorities to place a GPS monitor in your car. It allows them to wiretap you and exchange information with the other EU nations. You know, we had our eyes on the 9/11 hijackers, on the Boston bombers, on the Pulse nightclub shooters, and it's very frustrating as an American when someone perpetrates an attack and then you have the idea that the FBI kind of was aware a little bit, and it looks like the same thing happened over in France. You know, the viciousness of the attacks kind of strikes me. I went back and looked at the type of attacks in France, and there's been a lot, especially in France. Fire bombs, hostage taking, machete attacks, car ramming, hammer attacks, machine gun.
But you know what else?
Beheadings.
A lot of gun crime, and their gun control is really high. I mean,
exactly. So, you know, the terrorists continue to be creative with the methodology they use to perpetrate terror, but there are just a lot of weapons out there. And you look at Europe as an American, you say, you know, you have socialism, that's a warning to Americans. You have terror, that's a warning. The economy, migration, and you sit back and you say, what lessons can we learn from Europe before they become crisis in America?
I'm setting you up for this, Juan, because I know I know you will have a good point on this. That, you know, Donald Trump used this as part of an argument about the border. How do you see that? Do you see that as ludicrous, or?
Well, I mean, it's transparent to me that clearly he's trying to take advantage of this terrible situation. What strikes me first and foremost is that this guy had a long criminal record. As I read it, he'd been arrested for breaking into a pharmacy, breaking into a dentist office, and put in jail in Germany at one point. He's a bad guy. It does not appear, as Morgan said, to be part of any kind of terror network, although the French police have picked up 5 people who may be family, but somehow associated with this guy as they try to pursue him at this moment. But in response to you being rusty in terms of doing this, I think that's good news for America.
Right.
I would say so. But I would point out to you, Greg, that when we have things like the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, or Parkland, or the attack on a Southern black church, I think that you have to understand that there are people inside the country who do bad
Absolutely,
things.
and that's I would call that terrorism.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I would just say, yeah, for people who are subject to it, for Jews, for blacks, etc., that's real terrorism. You know, we just had the guy who ran over the woman down in Charlottesville put in jail for life this week. So, I mean, those are real things. But in terms of trying to advance the border argument, I would wish that the president would just be more direct. It's hard to say that terrorists come across the southern borders because the State Department says that's not the case. But it is the case that he wants to make the argument that we're more secure.
Right.
And I think he has a case to make. Go ahead and make the case. But don't use this as some kind of convenient, you know, argument. To me, it cheapens it.
I think you can relate them together, but probably finessed in a better way. Did you want the last word there?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that this attack comes on the backdrop of Paris literally being on fire because of the populist protest against the president. You're seeing the prime minister in London just barely escaping a vote of no confidence today. And of course, in Germany, Angela Merkel, I mean, her party's consistently losing these elections. So we're really seeing geopolitical turmoil in Europe in a way that's, I think, unprecedented.
Well, true, but I do think that we should give their intelligence services and their law enforcement some credit.
Yeah.
They're stopping a lot of these before they're happening. And the thing is, you don't hear about a lot of them because it's like the copycat thing. The more you hear about them, the worse it gets. The other thing I would say is this is really a world war. The 8 people, as you mentioned, that were killed here last October were all from Argentina.
Right.
Yesterday in Paris, you had a Thai tourist who was killed. So, like, there's no one that's not. No nation is free from this kind of thing because these terrorists also attack Muslims in their own countries as well.
You know what I wanted to add was I just think we should give a tip of the hat to the good old USA, because in terms of assimilation and the Muslim populations, France has not done a good job with
Right.
this. But
Yeah.
you look at the USA, we've done a much better job.
Yeah.
And they cooperate with our law enforcement as a result. So,
Yeah.
wow, America, we feel bad for what happened over there, but at the same time, I think we are an example for what's possible.
And the other thing we can't forget is that all it takes is one
Yep.
thing to erase the entire board, and everything that we talk about on the 5 becomes another 9/11. If it happens, it takes one. All right, President Trump with some new words for impeachment-happy Democrats. That's ahead on the 5.
Michael Cohen learns his fate. A federal judge sentencing President Trump's former personal lawyer to 3 years in prison after pleading guilty to numerous charges, including lying to Congress and violating campaign finance law. Let's go to Rick Leventhal, who was inside the courtroom earlier. What you got, Rick?
And Jesse, it was packed with members of the media, also attorneys and federal agents, and 3 rows of Michael Cohen's family and friends who all listened intently as he spoke for almost 10 minutes before he was sentenced. Near the very beginning, he told the judge, "This may be hard to believe, but today is one of the most meaningful days of my life, the day I got my freedom back," because he says his blind loyalty to Donald Trump led him to choose a path of darkness over light, ignoring his own moral compass and spending several years in what he called mental incarceration. The hearing lasted just over an hour. It included Cohen's attorney asking for leniency, suggesting his client made a remarkable life decision to cooperate with the federal government, offering evidence against the most powerful person in the country, saying Cohen was a man of integrity and an honest businessman. But U.S. attorneys painted a different picture of a man fueled by greed and a lust for power, who deliberately and willfully stole millions and eroded faith in the electoral process, they say, trying to influence the outcome of the presidential election. Judge William Pauley said that somewhere along the way, Michael Cohen did lose his moral compass, and the magnitude and breadth of misconduct requires significant deterrence. That deterrence, as you mentioned, 36 months in federal prison, 3 years supervised parole, $1.39 million in restitution to the IRS, the forfeiture of a $500,000 loan, and about $100,000 in fines. Jesse, he can spend the holidays with his family. He will turn himself in on March 6th.
Rick, thank you very much. President Trump's ready to fight back as Democrats ramp up impeachment talk. Trump telling Reuters, quote, "It's hard to impeach somebody who hasn't done anything wrong and who's created the greatest economy in the history of our country. I'm not concerned. No, I think that the people would revolt if that happens." I kind of agree with him, Greg, especially if the impeachment is on party lines, if it's something really thin, not major collusion or something
Hold on a
like
second.
that.
You're telling me, Jesse, that you agree with Donald Trump? we need another breaking news. Take Rick Leventhal back here. But by the way,
Yes.
I agree. Trump bears responsibility for employing Cohen. That's not against the law to employ a bad lawyer who then might have done something wrong. Cohen pleading guilty is not the same as Trump pleading guilty. That Cohen may have broken the law is not the same as Trump broke the law. The media is addicted completely to what ifs, not what is or what are's. And they're spending so much time on that they can't see the truth. I love this. Can I talk about Avenatti?
Yes.
Held a press conference condemning Cohen. Do we need to show it?
Let's show it.
Yeah.
Michael Cohen is neither a hero nor a patriot. Michael Cohen will report to federal prison exactly 1 year after we filed the case on behalf of Stormy Daniels. Michael Cohen was sentenced today. Donald Trump is next.
Oh, he's the best. I would say the pot calling the kettle black, but that might be racist.
And he just lost his Ferrari.
Yes, he did. He lost his Ferrari. Yeah, turn it in.
All right. Dana, great piece in the Daily Signal by Hans von Spakovsky.
Yeah, we call him HVS.
HVS.
I got that once.
And it says Trump's ex-lawyer didn't violate campaign finance laws, and neither did the president. It's a very methodical look at the Federal Election Commission, how they've ruled on cases like this before.
And he would know because he was an appointee to the Federal Election Commission.
You know a lot about HVS.
Yes, well, HVS, it took a lot to get him confirmed during the Bush administration. And in fact, I don't even know if we ever did, but he was an active, anyway, HVS, great guy.
HVS, great
knows what he's talking about.
Right. So you have the campaign finance violation, and that's going to be obviously argued. And President Trump saying people in the streets with pitchforks. Do you think he's sending a message right there to his supporters?
No, I do not. And I think anyone who ran, what was it? Ran away with the spoon? What ran away with the spoon?
Oh, I know a few people that have.
They jumped over the moon.
And then something about the spoon. And they took it too far. I think that what he's saying is like his supporters, his base, the people who voted for him, who didn't vote for him because of Russia or for any other reason, that they are going to say, like, how could you do this? We voted for him. He's a legitimate president of the United States. We love what he's doing. How dare you say that? He's saying that he doesn't mean that they're going to revolt against the country and like pick up weapons and go after people. That's not what he meant. He just meant that there would be frustration, right? And big time. I also feel like on the campaign finance laws, it is murky. I've talked to 3 different lawyers today. Everyone has a different interpretation of it. That's why you have an FEC. But remember, Michael Cohen does not just go to jail for 3 years because of campaign finance violations.
Right.
He admitted guilt to all sorts of things in terms of his own decision,
Tax
his
fraud,
personal
bank fraud.
decision, his bad business dealings, and that's really why he's going to jail.
Exactly. All right. So, Juan, Donald Trump, as we've discussed a long time, he can get along with Democrats. I mean, he's not an ideological guy. Do the Democrats risk something if they go in right from January and say impeach, 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 and hold the line? Instead, rack up some bipartisan compromises with the president in the new Congress and the Senate, and maybe get some bills passed, and then they can run and say, listen, I got things done in Congress.
Well, in fact, that's what he said last night to Reuters. He said we can go down 2 paths here. One is constructive and one is more of this kind of investigation stuff. But before we do that, let me just quickly say that, in fact, Bill Clinton had a better economy than Donald Trump, and he was impeached. So we'll see. I mean, I don't
He
think...
was also, his approval rating also went up.
That's right. So I'm just saying, I mean, but it's not a case that because he's, I mean...
Wait till the Trump economy really kicks into high gear.
And the second,
he was impeached in the second term.
We're
not there yet.
Oh, I see. You're looking forward now.
Yes, always looking forward.
There could be 2 impeachments.
Impeach him twice.
One per term.
Hey, wait a second. This is the 5. We got to go the other way. And the second thing to say is you guys try to separate Cohen from Trump.
Yes.
But wait, I believe the prosecutors say individual 1, who we believe to be President Trump, directed Mr. Cohen. Remember, the argument from the president was there was no payment to Stormy Daniels. No, we weren't paying anybody. And then the second thing he said...
There's still no crime.
Wait, you won't even let me finish. But the second thing he did was then he blames Cohen, right? He says, and then he says...
Bad lawyer.
Oh, bad. That's right.
That's
he says bad lawyer. That's exactly what he said. So, and then he's, all of this kind of denial and lies by the president, you can't ignore. It's just the president
not
is
collusion.
the one who's involved here. Oh, now you changed on me.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you, this is why the American... We should do a whole hour on this.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a whole hour, no breaks. This is why people like going, who cares?
Let me finish this point. Do you know what Mueller's prosecutor said today in court?
What?
Cohen was helpful to them by providing information about Trump's contact with Russia.
What if
That's
is not
good
what
news
is
for the president.
What if is not what is?
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so what you saw with Cohen and both America's news media, they pled to this. They had a plea deal. So this wasn't litigated in a court. And so I think that if this does go before the Congress, this isn't settled law. This hasn't been tested in an adversarial court. And I think, as Dana said, the president can make a clear argument here that I was doing something to protect my family. I similarly talked to several lawyers today and everyone had a different response on this. So it comes down to the politics. What do the 20, 30 Republican senators in the Senate think if the House impeaches? And do they want to remove a president for what is a campaign violation or making a payment to protect his family? I don't see that happening.
All right,
Not
Hans von Spakovsky. If you need to know anything about campaign finance law, read this guy.
HVS.
HVS. Up next, Democrats are fired up for 2020, but Biden and Bernie just got some very bad news. We'll tell you what it is next.
2020 coming into focus with some very new developments. A former advisor to President George W. Bush says Joe Biden should run on a, quote, unity ticket. And she has a surprising choice for a running mate, Utah Senator-elect Mitt Romney. Meanwhile, Beto O'Rourke edges out Bernie Sanders as the top presidential candidate among progressive Democrats in a MoveOn.org straw poll. and former Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum generating more 2020 buzz by speaking at the DNC Donors Conference yesterday. Morgan, what do you make of that?
Well, I think Gillum is a talented politician. I watched him in Florida, a state that I grew up in, and it's not surprising to me about Beto getting this energy, because I think as much as I sort of respect Biden, even though I'm a Republican, I just don't see, he seems hesitant. It's the same thing that happened, in 16. He seems hesitant to get in. He's leading in the polls. I don't think he ultimately is going to go for it. I mean, this is not based in fact. This is just based on my cable news pontificating. I just see the energy of the party with the younger voters, with Betos, and I think that, listen, President Trump never held elected office before coming here, so it will be tough to beat him. I still like, out of everybody, not that the Democrats care what I think, but I still like Kamala Harris. I think she's tough to beat. She's a sharp woman. She held herself well in the judiciary hearing, so I wouldn't count her out. If the Democrats want a woman, I would put my money on her.
By the way, so just so the audience knows, Beto O'Rourke got about 15%, Joe Biden 14%, Bernie Sanders 13%, and your pal Kamala Harris,
yeah, your best friend,
about 10%, Elizabeth Warren 6%. So, Jesse, what do you think? Who's your favorite?
I think Beto's got it. If he plays his cards right, he's courting the Obama team right now. I think, you have it, and it only lasts for a certain amount of time, and you have to seize that moment. Elizabeth Warren didn't seize that moment. Bernie almost seized the moment, and then Hillary rigged the primary against him.
Chris Christie
had it in, was it 2012?
Yeah.
And he stayed in New Jersey, and then Bridgegate happened. So you got to go for the gold immediately, and it looks like he'll get it. I like Kamala Harris, too, and I think Gillum's very talented. And they're both young and attractive candidates. The Morning Joe ticket, which I call this unity ticket, that's like what people that used to work for John McCain pitch just to get on MSNBC, and it'll never happen. This country's so divided along political extremes. You can't even get anything bipartisan done in Congress. How are you going to get a whole political party to come together? This is like the Lieberman people, the Kasich people, the Flakes. These people don't rate.
The winners.
Right.
Wait a minute, what about you and me running, Jesse?
Juan, sorry to say, going in another direction.
Juliana Glover is the one who came with this idea for the unity ticket. Dana, how's it strike you?
Well, I think it provides people some fun things to talk about. Like, imagine if that would happen. But if this isn't fantasy football, it's not going to happen. And I agree with everything Jesse said. You have to pick your moment.
What was that again?
I agree with everything Jesse said.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
And I appreciate everything Jesse says, always. And so I don't want to just repeat what he was saying. I would add that I read that Biden is going to huddle with his family this weekend. And it's not too long now that you'll see a lot of Democrats, 2020 hopefuls, will be heading to Iowa in 2020. I'm going to be on Tucker Carlson tonight talking about this very thing. But and just thinking about somebody like a Beto, you take this really urban message, right? That a lot of the coastal folks, they really loved it. Money came in from New England and California to Texas to help him raise $38 million. But when you take that message to Iowa, it has to sound, it's going to be different. But I agree, he cannot miss his moment. If he does, 2024 is not open to him.
All right. So, Greg, a lot of people think after watching that big showdown yesterday in the Oval Office that they need an outsider.
Well, I'm going to go against the grain on this unity ticket idea, okay? Because everybody says it's a crazy idea, but how many people said that about Trump? I did.
Yeah. About
him running. I didn't think he would run. He did. I didn't think he would win. He did. The crazy ideas can become reality, and because every election is essentially a pendulum, right? And the pendulum is based on two variables.
All right, welcome to Hannity on this breaking news night. Let's go back to November 8th, 2016. You, we the people, shocked the world. You voted for a fighter, for a disruptor, someone who will battle hard to keep promises that he made to you, and someone who will stand up to Washington, the establishment, smash through government bureaucracy, and actually get things done. And it's working. Well, tonight, President Trump is on offense, determined to fund the wall on our southern border that he promised. He is now holding congressional Democrats accountable in a very public way. And yep, fighting for what he promised you. Now, coming up, we're going to show you how Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, while they're playing petty partisan politics, President Trump is determined to protect the American people. We're going to play you the tape from today's contentious well, you might want to call it Trump beatdown, and explain why the blithering idiots leading the Democratic Party are way out of their league tonight. Plus, we'll review the president's plan for much-needed criminal justice reform. And I have a message for deranged New York Times hack Paul Krugman, who's literally saying the United States of America, our country, is part of the axis of evil. It was a really bad day for Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels, as she has now been ordered to pay nearly $300,000 for President Trump's legal bills. All right, stay tuned. And we have a huge announcement at the end of the show. But first, it's time for tonight's breaking news, well, Trump beatdown opening monologue. Let's be honest, border security is a deadly serious issue. Look at this. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, since 2001, 15 suspected terrorists, they've been apprehended at our southern border, including Islamic extremists from Al-Shabaab, the Taliban, ISIS. The true number of terrorist-related crossings is, of course, classified, likely much higher. And meanwhile, over 25,000 other known criminal immigrants have been arrested since 2016. This includes over a dozen murderers, 370 convicted sex offenders, and nearly 5,000 individuals convicted of illegal drug or weapons charges. Now, of course, I would tell you the vast majority of people that want to cross the border illegally probably are people that want a better life for themselves and their families. But even illegal immigrants with the best intentions, they are costing we, the taxpayers, an enormous amount of money. According to a recent study, every illegal immigrant that successfully crosses our border costs you, the American people, $70,000 a year. And on December 3rd, over 3,000 people were caught illegally crossing in just one day. In November, a 2-year-old toddler was found crossing the border without her parents. We must have the ability to decide who comes into our country to ensure the safety on both sides of the border, to vet people, to make sure they can take care of themselves. So now more than ever, we need a massive wall. It's a common sense strategy that actually works, keeping potential terrorists, those that are criminals, human traffickers, drug traffickers, out of this country, illegals. That's a national security issue. The president has long promised now to build that wall, and now he's fighting to do just that. He's fighting for what's right. Now, he fought hard. This is his history for tax cuts. He gave us the largest tax cuts in history. He fought for new trade deals, and he's winning on that front. He fought back against Obama's endless bureaucratic regulations, and he's created an environment for businesses that are now thriving. He's fought for energy independence, and for the first time this week, in 75 years, we are energy independent. He fought for the confirmation of qualified, originalist justices, and he's won. And now he's fighting for the wall on our southern border in a big way and confronting Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, for playing politics with what is the safety and security of every American citizen. Take a look.
I'd like not to see a government closing, a shutdown. We will see what happens over the next short period of time. But the wall is a very important thing to us. I might put it a different way. Border security is extremely important. And we have to take care of border security. When you look at what happened with the caravans, with the people, with a lot of, we shut it down. We had no choice.
I believe the Vatican has a great responsibility here that it hasn't. It could be a lot easier if we had real border security.
You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives, you have the vote. You should
people that accuse dollars
because in the Senate
who
we
are
need
actually
but in the House,
and we don't have
1,600.
Yeah, but I can't.
It's noon on the West Coast.
But I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we can get passed very easily.
Having the flexibility to...
But the problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and they won't vote. Nancy, we need border security. Very simple. We need border security.
Don't miss
People
Live
are pouring
PD.
into our country,
New episode
including terrorists.
tomorrow.
We have
And new
terrorists.
episodes every Friday and Saturday.
Over the last very short period of time. These are very serious people.
It's being built right now, big sections of
All of our
wall.
law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important.
You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border
And if it's
security.
not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with our
just said it is
military-
effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
Without
effective.
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
Where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's called transparency.
I know, it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without...
You know
saying to
what?
the
We need
public.
border security. That's what we're going to be talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wool. None of us have said...
You want to know something?
You've said
Okay,
it.
you want to put that on
You
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay, fair
Absolutely.
enough.
And I
We
am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
Wow. Chuck couldn't even look him in the eye. Now, tonight we have some breaking news. Fox News has confirmed that House Republicans are now considering putting a $5 billion funding the wall bill up for that vote that Nancy Pelosi wants, and they'll still fund the government at current levels. Now, this bill would prove Nancy Pelosi wrong and then put Senate Democrats in a pretty precarious position. Either fund the wall or they will shut down the government. By the way, if you're a Republican in Congress and you vote no, I will tell you right now, we will be highlighting your name and your record and holding you all accountable. This is about our nation's security. It's about stopping drug traffickers and human traffickers. It's about safety for the American people. None of this seems to matter to the left, and yet again, they are on the wrong side of what is a monumentally important issue. Look at this. According to a Harvard-Harris poll, a majority of Americans, they support the president, the wall on our southern border. 79% support a merit-based immigration system. 79% want more secure borders. 61% say the current border security is inadequate. And 68% want an end to the visa lottery system. Now, Democrats don't want to listen to the American people. Maybe they should just listen to themselves, because they're such hypocrites. In the Obama years, they sounded a lot like Donald Trump, and we've got the tape to prove it. Take a look.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. The American people will never accept immigration reform unless they truly believe that their government is committed to ending future illegal immigration.
Those who enter our country legally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. And because we live in an age where terrorists are challenging our borders, we cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked.
Oh, how times have changed. They all sounded like little baby Donald Trumps. Now, we've warned you for a long time. Now Democrats, now they want open borders, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. They even want to get rid of ICE and all the hard work that they do all together. But remember, they want to keep this agenda hidden, which is exactly, was one of the more fascinating moments during that exchange with the president that went on 11, 12 minutes today. They kept urging the president over and over, can we talk privately? Please, please, you're killing us. Sure a sign, by the way, they know that they were out of touch with the American people. Can we please do this privately? Pretty please. Take a look.
The point is that there are equities to be weighed. And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way. So I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. Again, let us have our conversation, and then we can meet with the press again.
That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a much bigger section
let's
with
debate,
more money.
Let's debate in private. Okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy. It's called transparency.
And let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work.
No, let's have the conversation in public so we can all see where you really stand. Instead of working towards a solution, you see it. Democrats playing politics and literally commencing with their favorite activity, bashing Trump, including now, moments after that tense exchange in the White House. Watch this.
The Trump shutdown is something that can be avoided, that the American people do not need at this time of economic uncertainty, people losing jobs, the market in a mood, and the rest. It's a luxury. The Trump shutdown is a luxury the American people cannot afford.
If he sticks to his position for a $5 billion wall, he will get no wall and he will get a shutdown. This Trump shutdown, this temper tantrum that he seems to throw, will not get him his wall, and it'll hurt a lot of people because he will cause a shutdown. He admitted he wanted a shutdown. It's hard to believe that he would want that. The president said things are working quite well at the border. Well, we want to give him the same thing he had last year. If they're working well last year, they should work well this year. He shouldn't shut down the government.
Amazing. Chuck couldn't look him in the eye when he was right in front of him, but he comes out strong when those cameras are out there and he doesn't have anybody to debate or to refute what he is saying. Actually, Chuck, the president said he would own it, that he's willing to fight for his promise for the American people, and that national security is that important to him. Okay, he says he owns it. Accept it. And Nancy Pelosi gets back to the security of Capitol Hill. She actually then questioned the president's, I can't make this up, manhood, telling her fellow Democrats, quote, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. This wall thing. And according to The Hill, she also made this odd, weird, bizarre analogy. It goes to show you, you get into a tinkle contest with a skunk and you get tinkle all over you. Wow. That's the leader of the Democratic Party, soon to be Speaker of the House. This is going to be, listen, you watch in the first 3 months of next year, this is going to be entertainment at its highest level. I promise you. Now let's contrast those very petty statements to how President Trump reacted following the meeting. Take a look.
I don't mind having the issue of border security on my side. If we have to close down the country over border security, I actually like that in terms of an issue, but I don't want it to be an issue. I want it to be something that the country needs. It's not really an issue. It's something the country needs. It's common sense. The country needs it. We need protection. We need border security. We need security from drugs that are pouring into our country. They're coming in right through that southern border, and we need a wall. We need border security, and part of border security is a wall. So I don't mind owning that issue. I mean, Chuck's problem is that, you know, when we last closed down, that was his idea. And honestly, he got killed. And so he doesn't want to own it. And I said, you know what, rather than us debating who's owning it, I'll take it. I'll take it. If we close down the country, I will take it, because we're closing it down for border security. And I think I win that every single time.
Ownership, responsibility, keeping promises, the courage to fight back. While some criticize the president's style, this is why this president was elected. It's why the border wall will get done one way or the other. He is a disruptor in chief, and finally promises are made that are being kept. The same reason that President Trump's bipartisan prison reform bill will also likely pass Congress and become law. Soon, nonviolent, low-risk offenders will have the chance to once again contribute to society without unreasonably long prison sentences. This is good for America. Everyone, again, nonviolent, very important, especially those who are first-time offenders. They should have a chance at redemption. Now, remember this scene, Alice Marie Johnson, who we had the opportunity to meet and interview, thanking the president, thanking the country for a second chance. She spent 20-plus years in prison for one drug offense, nonviolent. And now others like Alice Marie Johnson, currently in prisons, they will be given a second chance. Now, despite real progress across the country on multiple fronts, well, Trump derangement syndrome has devastated some of America's worst so-called journalists. Of course, this includes New York Times hack Paul Krugman. This is the most insane thing I think I've read in the New York Times. And that says a lot. Tweeting out an article about how climate change, along with a statement that reads, quote, there's a new axis of evil. Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United States? Okay, is this what the New York Times has become? A paper so filled with anti-Trump rage that they employ a person that's calling the United States of America evil? Not only is Krugman's anti-climate change rage absurd, it's also misplaced. Mr. Krugman, in 2017, the U.S. actually led all countries in reducing carbon emissions. I guess journalism is not one of his strengths. But what else would you expect from the New York Times? And for the record, Paul, no, America's not perfect. No country has ever been. But there's never been a country that has accumulated more power and abused it less, and accumulated more power and used it to help advance the human condition more than the